Hello! In this tutorial, we will teach you how the Marosa SII reconciliation tool works. First of all, let's see why it is important to perform the reconciliation of your SII files with the SII database of the tax authorities and with the data stored in your accounting program or ERP. One of the problems with SII is that many companies update the data sent to the tax office on the tax authority's own website or in intermediary tools, but then these changes are not reflected in accounting. These changes should be made at the source, in other words, the accounting program, and later resubmitted to the Spanish tax authorities. When that is not the case, three databases appear that we must reconcile. Let's see an outline. When working with an external tool, there are three databases that exist. In all three cases, it is possible to edit invoices, so the source of information can come from any of the three. First, we have your ERP or accounting program. Usually, the ERP will send the records to Marosa SII, which in turn will send the data to the tax office. Secondly, we have the Marosa SII tool, which allows you to edit and send files directly to the tax office as explained in the Editing Invoices tutorial. Finally, there is also the possibility of editing invoices directly on the AEAT website. We know that many companies use this last option to edit occasional invoices, but this generates problems. These different sources of information generate discrepancies if all the sources are not synchronized. For example, if your team updates an invoice in the tax office, but then that data is not updated at the accounting level, you will have a discrepancy. The same will happen if you update an invoice in Marosa SII without updating your accounting. These differences will mean that your VAT return will not match the tax authority's data. So it is more likely that the tax authorities will send a request for information about these returns. To summarize, we have three possible scenarios that may result in discrepancies with your ERP. The first one, invoices submitted in Marosa SII, but without updating the ERP or accounting program. The second one, invoices submitted with Marosa SII and modified on the AEAT's website, but without updating the ERP or accounting program. And the third one, invoices submitted with your own digital certificate directly through the AEAT without updating the ERP. Later, we will see how these invoices are the most problematic and why we recommend avoiding this option. To help you find these invoices included in these scenarios, we have created the Marosa SII reconciliation function. This function will indicate when an invoice has been updated and when there are discrepancies between the data of the tax authorities and the data of our database. Let's see how it works. In Marosa SII, you can access the reconciliation option through the side menu. You must choose the invoice book you want to consult in the corresponding period. You can select months, quarters, or even a whole year. Once chosen, a sample of the two databases will appear. In black and on the left is the information of Marosa SII. This is the information sent from your ERP or uploaded manually through Marosa SII. In the columns on the right and in blue, you will find the information from the tax office database. You can export the results to an Excel file by clicking on the three dots and selecting the Excel icon. You can also modify the columns and set a view that fits your company's needs. Let's look now at the steps to follow in order to update your accounting program. Step 1. Find the invoices submitted with Marosa SII and updated also from Marosa SII. This case corresponds to the first example in the previous presentation. To find them, click on the fourth column and choose all the invoices that have been updated. Once this is done, you must consult those invoices in the Invoices section of the tool and update your accounting program with the data submitted. Step 2. Find the invoices initially submitted with Marosa SII but later modified from the tax office's page. In this situation, we are looking for the invoices described in the second scenario of our previous guide. To do this, simply filter the first column by all the invoices found with differences or with the mismatch category. Here, you see that this invoice with number 123 is in the Marosa SII database, but is not in the tax office's database. This is because it was edited directly on the tax office's page with the company's own digital certificate. We wanted to add one last example of a mismatch. In this case, it is simply an invoice that gave an error when being sent. That is, you send an invoice from your accounting program or ERP to Marosa SII, but that invoice has some error that prevents it from being sent to the tax office. It will remain in Marosa SII's database and will not match the tax office's database until you correct that invoice. As we explained in the tutorial on editing invoices, it is important that you correct all errors to avoid discrepancies. Finally, there is the third case mentioned above. It would be the invoices initially registered on the tax authority's website with the company's digital certificate and not Marosa's. These invoices will not be visible anywhere in the Marosa SII tool because a different certificate has been used to register them initially. Our recommendation is to avoid this method of registering invoices. In addition, you have the option of registering invoices in Marosa SII easily, so it isn't necessary to go to the tax authorities for these steps. One way to avoid the problems of this scenario is to install your own digital certificate in Marosa SII. Our tool allows this adaptation, and doing so will add more visibility to your data. All these checks will be easier to do by downloading an Excel file as explained above. You will be able to note the changes and check the reconciliation of each invoice according to the progress in your list. That's all. If you have any questions about the reconciliation method, your Marosa SII team will be happy to help you. Remember that you can contact us through the contact section of your tool.